In this video, I will acquaint you with how to talk to people around the world. Yes, I said around the world and not across the world, because the world is indeed round. I will acquaint you with how to talk using this inexpensive radio that is inside this box that I will open momentarily, with no license required, no monthly dues or fees or extra costs, as long as you already have internet service. In this box, which I will open momentarily, is the KSUN, whatever, ZL10 internet radio. And this radio runs on the free Zello interweb service. And just to be clear, and to prevent and avoid any confuculation, that is the Zello interweb service, not the Zillow interweb service. Zello, Z-E-L-L-O, is a free interweb service that allows you to talk to people around the world using a free app on your phone or by using special radios like the one in this box, which I will open momentarily, while Zillow, Z-I-L-L-O-W, is a website that lies to you about how much your home is worth. So by using a radio like the one inside this box, which I will open momentarily, you can talk to people around the world using either other radios, such as the one inside this box, which I will open momentarily, or, as I just mentioned, to people using the free Zello app on their phone. You can also talk to people using regular ham or GMRS radios, such as this Boofwang UV5R, via ham or GMRS repeaters that are also connected to the Zello network. I will explain more about how that works momentarily. The cost for the KSUN, whatever, the ZL10 radio is $60. Affiliate link below. Now, before I go any further, allow me to take a moment to talk about the herd of elephants in the room that shows up anytime one discusses this type of network radio. Because this type of radio is not for everyone. And if I do not very clearly mention these things right up front, the comments section will be filled with some people complaining about all of the reasons they do not like this kind of radio. This is not a GMRS radio. It is not an FRS radio, and it is not a ham radio. This is a network radio, and it will not work without an internet connection. You cannot transmit directly radio to radio when you have no internet service. You cannot receive VHF, UHF, GMRS, FRS, MERS, airband, or CB signals with this radio. This radio is not a telephone, and it cannot be used to contact 911 or any other emergency services. This radio is not intended for shit hit the fan or emergency use, and this radio is not appropriate for critical infrastructure communications. Internally, this radio uses an older version of Android as its operating system, and you cannot update it. This does not affect how the radio operates in any way. However, some people will still feel compelled to leave comments and complain about that anyway. And this radio is not a high-quality, best-in-class device with the latest hardware or software technology. This is an inexpensive radio that is made out of pure and highly refined Chinesium, and using this radio is a fun way to talk to other Zello users, or, as I will explain momentarily, to talk to people on regular GMRS or ham radios via GMRS or ham repeaters that are connected to the Zello network. Now that I have very clearly addressed those issues, there should be no possible way that any idiot will leave comments complaining about any of those things. So when you purchase the KSUN, whatever, ZL10 network radio, in the box, you will receive not one, but two instruction booklets, one specifying more of the physical operation of the radio, the other showing how to get connected to the Zello network using the radio. Both are written in poor Chinglish and are near useless, but they are a good guide to get started. You will receive a belt clip for affixing to the back of the radio. The belt clip affixes to the radio itself and not to the battery. You can then use said belt clip to clip the radio to your belt and impress the chicks. You will receive this very handsome wrist strap for affixing the radio to any appendage on your body of your choosing. You will receive a charging cable, USB-A to the micro USB variety, and this is a charging only cable. This cable does not carry data. I will talk more about why that matters momentarily. You will receive a USB charging brick, which you use to connect the aforementioned charging cable to, and then one end goes to the radio, the other end goes to those holes that you find in your walls in your home. You will receive a battery, 4,000 milliamp hour battery. However, you cannot directly compare this battery to other walkie-talkie or HT batteries as far as how long it lasts, because as I will mention momentarily, this radio does not work like other GMRS or ham radios. You will receive an antenna, and you will receive the KSUN ZL10 Internet Zello network radio. On the radio, you will find a push button for turning the radio on and off. It also doubles as a volume control. A red and green LED, which indicates when you are connected to the Zello network, in which case it turns green, or if you are not connected to the Zello network, it will turn red. The antenna connects thusly. On the side, you'll find a push-to-talk button and two buttons that, as far as I can tell, don't do anything. On the front of the screen, you will find... I almost forgot. Where was I? On the front, you will find buttons to control the radio. Go over that momentarily. A flimsy door or cover, underneath which you will find the charging port. That is also the data port if you decide to connect it to your computer, which I will talk more about momentarily. And an external speaker jack and microphone jack. You'll also find a SIM card slot that you can put a data SIM card in. That would allow you to access the internet using 3G or LTE service anywhere. That is not required. I have not tested it. To turn the radio on, you simply press and hold the on and off button momentarily. You can see this lovely 4G LTE splash screen. As you can see, the LED is flashing red because it has not yet connected to the Zello network. And in just a moment, when the boot process completes, you will see that it turns green, and it is now connected to the Zello network. Now, the very first thing that I noticed when using my new KSUN ZL10 network radio is that it is very frustrating to use this keyboard until you get used to it. Once you become accustomed to how it works, it gets much easier to use. The battery on this thing, as I mentioned previously, you cannot compare it to regular GMRS or ham or regular walkie-talkies. The battery lasts a surprisingly long time. I charged this battery 5 days ago, and I have been using the radio every day for the last 5 days, and as you can see on the very tiny screen, the battery is still at 49%. And the reason that the battery on this radio lasts so much longer than on a regular GMRS or ham or regular walkie-talkie is because this radio transmits on Wi-Fi, which by design is very low power. So it does not suck down the battery as fast as a regular 3-watt or 5-watt walkie-talkie, so you can expect this battery to last 4 days. As you can see, there are buttons on the radio, the menu key, return, lock and unlock, and up and down keys are fairly self-explanatory and are obvious. What is not as obvious is that these little TP buttons are the side-to-side buttons for moving the cursor around the screen, up and down for moving the cursor up and down the screen, as you can see there. TP left and TP right for moving the cursor sideways. When you reach the item that you want to select, you press the OK button to select the item. When you're done, you press the return or menu key. Now, I have discovered the very hard way that it is much easier to do things like connecting the radio to your Wi-Fi and entering your Zello account information by using a free remote control program that allows you to use your computer keyboard and mouse to type and click things on the radio. I am using a free program called Vysor, V-Y-S-O-R, which made it much easier to get the radio all set up. I will put a link in the information section of the video below so that you can find and download the Vysor software, which runs on Windows, Mac, and Linux. This software is not required. You do not need to use this software or any software at all to use this radio, but as previously mentioned, it makes it much faster and easier to get it initially set up, because typing in passwords on the little screen keyboard is very time-consuming and very frustrating and rage-evoking. However, using a remote control program such as the Vysor software is the only way that I know of that you can actually set the tiny clock on this radio. Otherwise, unless you live in the central time zone of the United States, this little clock will always be wrong. But if you do not mind the clock being wrong, and if you can get connected to your Wi-Fi and get logged into your Zello account by using the little buttons without getting frustrated and bashing the radio against the wall, as previously mentioned, you do not need any software or a computer to use this radio. One other minor detail that I feel I should mention: if you do use a remote control program to connect this radio to your computer, you cannot use the cable that came with the radio. This cable is only intended for charging. It apparently lacks the little wire inside that carries data, so you would need to use a full micro USB type cable that carries data, which is pretty much any other one in the world, just not this one that comes with it. As previously mentioned, this radio uses the Zello service, so you will need a Zello account, which is free. If you do not already have a Zello account, you can set it up right on the radio, but it is much easier to download the free Zello app to your phone to create your account and to find any Zello channels that you want to connect to or other people that you want to talk with and add them as your contacts. Then when you sign into the radio, everything will automatically be there for you, waiting for you to use. But as previously mentioned, you could do it all directly on the radio. It's just a bit more challenging. I should also point out that it is very helpful if you already know how to use the Zello app so that you are familiar with connecting to channels, saving contacts, and whatever else Zello does. You could learn to use Zello directly on the radio. However, it is much less frustrating to learn how to use it with the app on a full-size screen on your phone. So once you have your Zello account all set up, you just connect the radio to any Wi-Fi or the mobile hotspot on your phone. You do that by using the Settings app. And then once you're connected to the Wi-Fi or the hotspot on your phone, you can start talking to your friends or strangers around the world. As mentioned, there is also the SIM card slot in the back, so you could buy a data plan from your phone provider and use that to connect to the interweb. However, I have not yet tested that. I do not know how that works. When I leave the house, I just connect to the hotspot on my phone, and as long as my phone has cell service, which is pretty much everywhere I drive, I can talk on the radio. However, as previously mentioned, if I drive where there is no service, such as off-roading or in the wilderness, this radio is useless. And also, as previously mentioned, you can talk around the world with other people that have Zello on their phones or to other people using radios like this one, and you do not need any kind of license. Or you can talk to people that are using regular ham or GMRS radios, such as this Boofwang UV5R, by connecting to a Zello channel that is connected to a repeater. Allow me to explain. As an example, my GMRS repeater, which covers a few hundred square miles of the Inland Empire in Southern California, is connected to Zello. So when someone talks on their GMRS radio on my repeater, anyone listening to the Zello channel with the Zello app on their phone or with a fancy network radio such as this, they will also hear the people talking on that repeater. And when someone talks on their Zello app or fancy network radio, such as this one, while connected to my Zello repeater channel, which you can see this radio currently is, they will be heard by anyone using their regular GMRS radio that is set up to use my repeater. Thusly, someone using this radio connected to the hotspot on their phone could be driving down the street in Poughkeepsie, Ohio, or Cairo, Egypt, and be talking to someone in Southern California on a GMRS radio via my Zello repeater channel that is connected to my repeater. They would hear them on their regular GMRS radio. However, it is important to remember that to talk on a GMRS or ham repeater, you are supposed to have a GMRS or ham radio license. Even if you are talking on that repeater from a network radio such as this, which in itself requires no license, if you are connecting to a repeater, you're supposed to have a license. So most Zello channels that are connected to a ham or GMRS repeater will ask you for your GMRS or ham license before they allow you to use their repeater. If you would like more information and details on how to connect to my GMRS repeater here in beautiful Southern California using Zello, I will put a link in the information section below to a page on my website explaining in excruciating detail how to connect to my repeater through Zello. The audio quality on this radio when talking to other Zello users is crystal clear. The sound is very high fidelity. If you are talking to someone that is using a regular GMRS or ham radio connected through a repeater on the Zello network, the audio is not as good and the quality will vary depending on how many fars away the repeater is from the person that you are talking to. And to help me demonstrate the sound quality of this radio, I have asked my friend Chris to demonstrate how people sound when talking directly via Zello and when talking via my repeater, which is connected to the Zello network. First, we will listen to how Chris sounds when using his GMRS radio, talking through my repeater, which is connected to Zello. So his signal will be going from his GMRS radio 10 miles away through the air to my repeater, where it will then go through the internet to the Zello network and eventually end up on this radio.
Hi, this is Chris, talking on the Motorola XTS 5000, illegal on GMRS, talking through the Rancino, not a Rubicon, 5600 repeater. How do I sound? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Next, we will listen to how Chris sounds when using the Zello app on his phone. So now his signal will be going from his phone through the Wi-Fi's at his house to the internet and to the Zello network, to the Wi-Fi in my house, and finally to this radio.
Hi, this is Chris, 530, on my Zello app phone, my iPhone with the Zellos. How do I sound? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
And as you're probably able to hear with your very own ear holes, when Chris was on his regular GMRS radio, it sounded okay. But when Chris was on the Zello app, he sounded as clear as an FM radio DJ on a smooth jazz radio station. So should you buy the KSUN, whatever, ZL10 network radio? Even though this is basically just a cell phone app jammed into a fairly nice walkie-talkie form factor, it does the job very well and in many ways much better than if you're using the Zello app on your phone. It is much easier to use as a walkie-talkie than trying to press buttons on your phone while you talk. The radio is fairly rugged. As previously mentioned, the battery does last for days, and the sound quality is very good. And because it is relatively cheap, if you drop it or break it or lose it, you're not going to care. So if you are looking for a simple, low-cost network radio for non-critical communications, this might just be the network radio for you.